The air crackled with anticipation. Base camp, a riot of color against the stark canvas of snow and ice, buzzed with nervous energy. Laughter echoed off the towering peaks, a testament to the shared dream that bound these adventurers together. For weeks, they had meticulously planned, their bodies hardening under the watchful gaze of the Himalayas. Each piece of equipment, every route detail, every weather forecast, scrutinized, debated, and committed to memory. Theirs was a brotherhood forged in ambition and a shared love for the world's highest peaks. They were a diverse group, these climbers. Seasoned veterans, their faces etched with the stories of countless ascents, stood shoulder to shoulder with wide-eyed novices, their hearts thrumming with a potent mix of fear and exhilaration. There were scientists drawn to unlock the secrets held captive in the icy heights, and thrill-seekers seeking to test the limits of human endurance. But all were united by an unyielding desire to stand on the roof of the world, to touch the sky where it kissed the earth. As they made their final preparations, the sun dipped behind the jagged peaks, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The air grew colder, thinner. A hush descended over the camp, a palpable stillness that settled in their chests, a prelude to the immense challenge that lay ahead. Tomorrow, they would begin their ascent. Tomorrow, they would dare to dance with the gods. The mountain roared its defiance. What began as a whisper of wind, a snowflake's gentle descent, quickly morphed into a raging blizzard. The sky, once a brilliant blue, transformed into a swirling vortex of grey and white. The storm, as if lying in wait, struck with a vengeance, unleashing its fury upon the unsuspecting climbers. The wind, now a howling beast, ripped through the tents, tearing at the flimsy fabric that stood between the climbers and the elements. Snow, whipped into a frenzy, created a blinding whiteout, erasing all sense of direction. The temperature plummeted, turning exposed flesh to ice in an instant. The mountain, once a majestic giant, had transformed into a merciless adversary. Panic, raw and primal, seized the climbers. Radio calls, frantic and garbled, were swallowed by the wind. Tents, their anchors ripped from the frozen ground, were swept away like leaves in a hurricane. Climbers, tethered together for safety, were now bound to one another in a desperate fight for survival. On that unforgiving mountain, the storm had become judge, jury, and executioner. High on the mountain, above the clouds, a group of climbers huddled together inside their battered tent. The storm raged around them, an unrelenting assault on their senses. The wind howled like a banshee, threatening to rip their sanctuary from its moorings. Snow, driven by the relentless wind, piled up against the tent walls, each flake a tiny hammer blow against their dwindling hope. Inside, the air was thick with fear and the smell of stale breath. Oxygen, their lifeline in this rarefied air, was running dangerously low. Frostbite, a silent predator, crept along their extremities, turning fingers and toes numb and white. Each gust of wind, each chilling blast of snow chipped away at their resolve. They were trapped, entombed in a frozen hell of their own making. Through the howling wind, a faint sound reached their ears. A rhythmic thumping, growing louder, closer. An avalanche. Panic surged through the tent. They were sitting ducks, their fragile shelter offering little protection against the mountain's wrath. The earth trembled, a deep groan that vibrated through their bones. And then, silence. John, his face a mask of ice and determination, dug frantically at the snowdrift that had buried their tent. The avalanche, a roaring wall of white death, had missed them by a hair's breadth, but it had claimed their only means of communication with the outside world. Now their lifeline to rescue, to hope, was severed. He clawed at the unforgiving snow, his frozen fingers screaming in protest. Every muscle in his body ached, every breath a searing pain in his lungs. But he couldn't stop, not now, not when the lives of his friends, his companions, depended on him. He uncovered a corner of the tent, a splash of bright yellow against the stark white. Hope surged through him, a beacon in the blinding storm. With renewed vigor, he ripped away the snow, freeing the entrance to their tomb. He crawled inside, his eyes adjusting to the dim light. 3 pairs of eyes stared back at him, their faces etched with a mixture of relief and terror. They were alive, for now. The storm, as if exhausted from its own fury, finally began to subside. The wind, once a deafening roar, softened to a mournful whisper. The snow, no longer whipped into a frenzy, drifted lazily down from the leaden sky. An eerie silence descended upon the mountain, broken only by the crunch of boots on fresh snow. John and his companions emerged from their battered tent, blinking in the weak sunlight that filtered through the clouds. Around them, the landscape was a scene of utter devastation. Tents lay ripped and shredded, their contents scattered like confetti across the snow. Gear, once meticulously organized, was now debris, swallowed by the drifts. And then they saw them, the bodies, frozen in grotesque postures, half buried in the snow. Some, their faces contorted in eternal screams, others, their features serene as if slumbering peacefully. The climbers, their dreams now entombed in ice, were a stark reminder of the mountain's indifference to human ambition. The silence, once a welcome respite from the storm's fury, now echoed with the unspoken stories of the fallen. News of the disaster trickled down from the mountain like meltwater, slow and chilling. The climbing community, a tight-knit fraternity bound by shared risk and passion, reeled in shock and grief. Names, once whispered with admiration in base camps and pubs, were now uttered with reverence, etched in the annals of mountaineering tragedies. Families thousands of miles away received the news with disbelief, their worlds shattering with the finality of a snapped rope. The grief was raw, all-consuming. Their loved ones, adventurers who had danced with death on the highest peaks, had succumbed to the mountain's embrace. But amidst the sorrow there was also anger. Questions were raised, fingers pointed. Were the climbers ill-prepared? Did they ignore warning signs? Was the allure of the summit, that siren song of conquest, too strong to resist? The debate raged, fueled by grief and the gnawing realization that the mountains, for all their majestic beauty, were inherently unforgiving. In the aftermath of the tragedy, experts pointed to a disturbing trend: the increasing frequency and intensity of extreme weather events in the Himalayas. Climate change, once a distant threat, was now a palpable reality, its icy grip tightening around the roof of the world. Glaciers, those ancient rivers of ice, were receding at an alarming rate, their meltwater forming treacherous crevasses and destabilizing slopes. Weather patterns, once predictable, had become erratic, unleashing storms with a fury that defied historical records. The mountains, once a sanctuary for risk-takers and dreamers, were becoming increasingly perilous. The climbing community grappled with this new reality. Some argued for stricter regulations, limiting access to dangerous peaks during volatile weather windows. Others advocated for improved forecasting technologies, providing climbers with more accurate and timely information. But one thing was clear: the future of mountaineering, at least in its current form, hung precariously in the balance. The Summit of Shadows tragedy reignited a long-standing debate. What is the acceptable cost of human ambition? Is the pursuit of personal glory, the thrill of pushing human limits, worth the inherent risks, especially in an era of increasing climate uncertainty? Critics argued that extreme mountaineering was an inherently selfish pursuit, a reckless gamble that endangered not only the climbers themselves, but also the lives of the Sherpas and rescuers who risked their lives to save them. They questioned the ethics of profiting from the allure of danger, of turning a blind eye to the environmental impact of these expeditions. But for many, the allure of the mountains was too strong to resist. They argued that the pursuit of adventure, the challenge of testing one's limits, was an intrinsic part of the human spirit. They pointed to the camaraderie, the courage, the profound connection with nature that drew climbers to these unforgiving heights. The debate, complex and nuanced, reflected the deep chasm between those who sought to conquer nature and those who believed in coexisting with it. The Himalayas, their peaks shrouded in clouds, stand as silent witnesses to the triumphs and tragedies of human endeavor. They are a stark reminder of the power of nature, its ability to both inspire and obliterate. The Summit of Shadows, a tragic chapter in the annals of mountaineering, serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder that the pursuit of dreams must be tempered with respect for the forces that shape our world. As climbers continue to test their limits on these unforgiving slopes, the debate about the ethics and sustainability of extreme mountaineering will undoubtedly continue. But one thing remains certain: the mountains, in their majestic indifference, will continue to beckon, challenging us to confront our own mortality and find meaning in the face of the unknown.